Etheria Restart just announced a new update, and with it there is a new character announced alongside some other changes and updates or bug fixes to other content that's thus been released so far. With this, we should talk about Yelli and a few of the announcements or announced details for her specifically. First and foremost, she is a constant character, meaning she is one of the light and dark characters, and in addition to this, from what we've been shown, she is a high output, in other words, I'm assuming high DPS, playstyle character that centers around attacks that trigger powerful follow-up attacks that also, I guess, activate off of critical hits. And in this case, I guess she's somewhat similar to someone like a Rosa, and this alongside her chain damage allows her to eliminate targets quickly, and it makes her a great pick as far as we know for dealing damage and for burst compositions. But at the time of this writing, we don't know exactly what's been announced about her kit and what she has to offer. Now, in addition to this, they did give us a few details about what to expect for her kit, but not given any direct details. And with that, we have been introduced to the fact that she comes with a well-rounded kit that includes things like a self-dispel, critical hit buffs, again similar to Rosa, and actually an AoE defense break, which makes her really powerful both in PvE and PvP. Now, in terms of just what we've seen so far, I think her character PV is pretty cool, and I think she as a character is very cool. However, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with, expecting or trying to sell an LD character is always a difficult thing to do, because again, the character that you're seeing on screen has to compete with the likes of characters like Lily, has to compare with characters like Mio for PvP, and the list goes on, including characters like Messiah as well. Now, as a result, as we don't know the entire or exactly what the character is going to do, we can only, as a result or with this, basically make assumptions or make predictions for how good she will be. And with it, I think that, again, having a character that self-dispels while also provides crit and AoE defense break, that's kind of a recipe for a really strong character, and with them already trying to advertise the character as a PvE and PvP focused character, that does mean that she shares a similar-ish role to a character like Messiah, where a lot of people would want the LD that they pity or pull for to, of course, be usable in not just one single piece of content, but multiple. With that, we should also talk about the actual patch note update and a couple things that are being announced at the time of this writing. Now, the first thing that we've seen, of course, is this anima update, and again, she looks pretty cool. And with this, of course, means that Messiah is going to be leaving the banner. But in addition to this, we're also being shown a few announced other details. This includes, of course, her Animus outfit that she also has, and the new release of a new piece of content called the Cage Rumble. Now, Cage Rumble is a solo challenge mode, and it has multiple bosses created for everyone to test their abilities and presumably also receive rewards. But within this content, you'll be assembling and making teams to take on a series of multiple boss fights, as earlier mentioned. And with this, again, you'll be earning battle points, which you can then use to exchange for valuable rewards. And for competitive players, leaderboards will also be included, so you can compete, or I guess compare how well you're doing relative to other characters at your rank. Now, for this, the assumption, of course, is that this will, of course, have a leaderboard that also may have rewards similar to what they have currently shown with content like their like the tournament. Presumably, maybe they'll be in another event, or maybe there'll be an event where reaching the top 100 of this, or maybe this specifically will be the event where they have a reward for being top 100, top 50, etc. We'll have to see. But next, they've also updated the anti-sync echoes, with now there being new stages, with stages 37 to 42, and this of course will introduce new combat challenges and boss mechanics that push, of course, your teams even further. Now, they also announced that there's a new chapter in the storyline titled Animus Doki, which offers more lore, I guess, for players that care, and also more rewards, presumably, in addition to this. Now, following this, we also have a load of bug fixes, as you can probably tell here. Now, In particular, though, the ones that I want to focus on are a few, including the display issues that they've had for a while and the incorrect timer functions in limited events like the Cubic Game and Shell Story. They also had other union-related bugs or issues that have been resolved as well, and that includes the member refresh delays, the application list errors, and the quest reset bugs. But I think honestly, one of the more, or some of the more important bugs that they should really address and fix are character or boss specific bugs with bosses like Dahlia, Hoyan, Nico Nana, and Sharon now accurately reflecting their dot and control effect immunities, which makes which does make fighting them a bit easier and feels less RNG as a whole. Now, moving past this, they also have a couple of optimizations as well, and adjustments too. Now, beyond this, that includes things like the United Front having a visual overhaul and the structure overhaul as well, which now includes a clearer map layout, new war flags, battle reports, and smoother rank management. But in addition to this, in terms of rewards, they've also made an optimization, or I guess I should really just call it a buff, to the daily quest rewards. Again, a lot of these that you're seeing right now are not confirmed, but the exact details have not been revealed, so we'll have to wait and see. But having more rewards, honestly, even from the daily activities that you do, is super big. However, I do want to say that before we even go further than this, while this daily quest reward increase is amazing and well appreciated, I'm sure I'm not the only person to kind of feel the pressure that the resource management or the resource cycle or loop in this game has put on players, including myself. Now, again, I mentioned earlier, but I'm by no means a free-to-play player, and even with that, it feels difficult at times to push certain content without basically either resetting your teams or having the foresight prior to invest in certain characters. And since the reset function isn't reliable or reliably included in the game, it does feel a little bit more annoying and frustrating to try and make teams or progress through the game when it feels like you'll experiment with, or you'll hear someone say that X team works, but then you'll realize that there's something that they have that you don't, and then you end up wasting a lot of your resources. With that, again, I do think that increasing the rewards is a step in the right direction, but in terms of the difficulty and the resource management or the resource generation in this game, it does feel like they still need to address and work on these things a little bit more, and at least give some communication towards the fact that this is being looked on. I do believe that they have addressed or acknowledged the fact that Inferno or the Inferno modes are quite difficult, but even in terms of that and beyond, it does feel like getting to the mid or the beginning of the end game feels very, very taxing and difficult right now, as it feels like you're just punished if you decide to run anything that isn't super meta or anything that isn't shown or spit out to you in a guide, as again, experimentation does actually punish you at the moment, where if you don't have, well, a character like Sonya, or if you don't have Kachi or any of these really strong characters invested in early, and you made the mistake of, I don't know, investing in a different character, it feels like you can hold yourself back a couple days, and that does feel really annoying when honestly this game feels like a constant progression treadmill as opposed to a loop. Now, in addition to this, they've also increased the Ether Arena and the Summon Arena rewards from top 100 to top 200. And this is pretty nice, of course, because it makes the PvP even more rewarding. And for those of you that are coming from Epic 7, having an RTA or PvP shop in the way that they've shown us is really nice, but that could also be just a symptom of us having so few resources, it feels like, in this game, that having any resources from these feels really nice. Now, in addition to this, they also adjusted the difficulty of certain bosses in the Ethernet Rally and Phantom Theater, so it's much easier. And of course, although you could make the argument that content like the Inferno bosses is supposed to be difficult, Ethernet Rally and Phantom Theater are just events that will sometimes go away, or, well, I shouldn't say they're not necessarily events, but they're introductory activities. They're not really like the Inferno activity, or they're not even the, you have to group up with your entire union and you have to combine your resources in order to beat this sort of content. And as a result, them toning down the difficulty of this a little bit so it's more accessible to new players is really nice. Now, in addition to this, they've also made system improvements and visual updates. And with this, honestly, things like the UI, battle screen, and character panels have been, I guess, optimized or changed a little bit. They also announced that event tokens from stories and activities will now automatically convert to Etheria coins via the mail when unused, which is so well needed and appreciated. To be honest with you, coming from a game like Epic 7 and even some other gacha games, it feels like normally you have some time to kind of sit and decide what you want to use with your event currencies, and then, you know, after about 2 weeks worth of waiting, you inevitably end up buying everything because you're trying to hoard up or you're trying to stack up resources. But in this game, because sometimes either I'd forget to do the activity or sometimes it feels like you don't even have enough to buy everything out of the shop, I'll end up just wasting or not being able to use any of my coins whatsoever because I was waiting for, or rather I should say that I was waiting to store more and more resources so I could buy something like a lattice or a shadow print instead, but ended up like I guess getting got basically by the event disappearing on me before I could even make this before I can make the purchase. Now, again, a lot of the changes that I've announced here are pretty cool. Again, I don't know too much about or we've only seen a minor amount about Yelli currently. Again, I think she's pretty cool. She is the next LD to come out, and though I think a lot of people are pretty hot already on how good characters like Holden and, well, Ho Yan maybe in PvP is, I do think that the first ever LD is a cool marking point or a cool point for the game's kind of history or the progression or the trajectory of the game. We'll see how excited people are about the game. And honestly, for Yelli, I think she's going to be pretty cool. I can't imagine that a character that gives you crit rate and defense break on the same turn could be bad while also presenting herself as a Rosa-esque DPS. But yeah, we'll see how she does. That's going to just be it for today's video though, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. Thanks again for watching. Cool. Hope again, you know, Etheria restart makes some notice or makes some acknowledgement about the resource crunch and the Inferno difficulty, because honestly I don't think people want to just sit in Hell 4 for the rest of their lives. Anyways, I'll see you guys all in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, good night.